Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the LG Optimus L5 Mark II. This is a really interesting Android device for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it's not a high-end smartphone. It's aimed at the middle of the market. That means that we get a good mix of performance, product, and price. So, what do we get with this particular Android device? Well, for starters, it has 2G and 3G built in, no surprise there, but there's no 4G in here, there's no LTE. The actual screen resolution is a 4-inch screen with a 480 by 800 pixel display. Now that gives you a pixel density of 233 pixels per inch, which is none too shabby on a 4-inch display. Now, the internal storage is a little on the low side, but something we would expect on a mid-range device. You're looking at 4 gig of internal memory, and about 1.4 gig of that is going to be available to actually store information onto, so your apps, your files, your music, and so on. It does also have the micro SD card slot there, which it says is upgradable to 32 gig, although if you're aware, the standard for micro SD, if it usually says it will take 32 gig, it should take a 64 card as well. Internal RAM wise, there's only 512 meg of internal RAM here. Now that's the RAM that's basically used for making your applications run quickly and running a few of them simultaneously. So unfortunately there's not an awful lot of sort of raw power in this device. It's also packing a 1 GHz CPU as well, and a PowerVR SGX 531 graphics processor, which is not the fastest out there. But as I keep saying, this is a mid-range device. It's not designed for those of us who are looking for absolute raw power. What it is designed for is the average person. People out there who are just looking for a great Android device, reasonable specs, and something that works. It's not huge, as you can see in my hand. It's not a massive device. Not if we say compare it to something like the Galaxy Note 2, which will barely fit on the screen. With the LG Optimus L52, we get Android 4.12, which is pretty good. I mean, what we have to bear in mind is that this Android 4.12, if we're looking at the Android operating system, it's no slouch anyway. And it was optimized fairly well for 512 meg of RAM. And so we have a device that doesn't feel unresponsive. Occasionally you might see the odd stutter when it's installing applications, but overall we found the device to be very, very nippy, quite fluid as well. And certainly when you want to, for instance, fire up Chrome, as you can see, it's very quick. There's no real delays here whilst you're waiting for your information to pop up on the screen. Now, we're just loading Google Now here. As you can see, I haven't actually logged in yet. And this is usually quite a good test of a device and how well these cards are animating on screen and so on. As you can see, there's no slouching here with the L5. It really is a nice little device. Now, when we played some games on here, we did find that the GPU wasn't the fastest around. That's not to say that you'll have problems with the latest games, but you'll probably find you're going to want to go into the settings and just see if there's an option just to turn the graphics detail down a little bit. We found playing games to be a fairly comfortable experience, but somewhat limited by the 4-inch screen, especially if you're used to coming from much larger displays. If you're someone who's coming from a feature phone, or from an iPhone for instance, you're going to be right at home with the L5 Mark II. It is a really nice device. Now, settings wise, everything is very Android here. So we have our quick power shortcuts along the top here, which allow us to get into all of the most common features. One thing that's worth noting is it does have NFC built in, so for a mid-range device with NFC, very, very interesting. Now, each of these toggles along the top here can also be edited using this edit control. Again, a really nice option to have there if you want to, personalize things just a little bit more. Make sure that your quick settings are in the right place, for you. If we click on this little option down here, this little settings marker, which for my mind is a little bit on the small side, it could do with being positioned somewhere a little bit easier to hit, but it's just there. That will then take you into your settings, and this is very standard Android. So in here we have access to our Wi-Fi, our Bluetooth settings, mobile data, your call handling. In more, you'll find access to NFC, your tethering options, airplane mode. Android Beam has also been included, and VPN as well. it's very fully featured from that point of view. They've not hacked out bits of Android 4.12. If the support was there for NFC, they've included NFC, which is fantastic to see. We need more devices with NFC, in my opinion, in the mid-range. Your sound options are pretty much as you might expect. It will allow you to adjust your volume, pop your device into quiet mode, change your ringtones and notifications, and set up how things like vibrations are going to operate or touch sounds when you're touching the screen. Your display has your brightness controls, timeouts, access to fonts, and the front touch key lights, which are these options here, as well as the home button LED. One of the things that I found really interesting with the L52 is instead of having the notification light up at the top here, which a lot of devices have gone for, they've built it directly into the home button, which actually I prefer. I think it's a really nice way of dealing with the notification light. It makes the notification bigger and brighter for starters, so it's illuminating an entire area there, not just a little dot on the corner. But also it just makes a bit more sense actually having it there than stuck up at the top. As a way of building form and function into a single element, as it were, that's a brilliant way of dealing with it, and probably kept the cost down as well as and the size of the device down as well. So when we come into the home screen, this is where we can tweak all of the things for the home screen effectively. So what kind of swipe effects we have, what theme is going to be used. As you can see, there's some quite nice different themes. Let's have a bit of marshmallow. Let's go fluffy. Set your wallpaper, scroll screen circularly. That means that they'll just keep scrolling. They don't reach an end point, it will loop round back to the beginning. We also have the lock screen controls here. This is where you can set up your security, owner information, pop a timer on, or clocks and shortcuts. All of these things are fairly standard part of 4.12, and it's great to see them having been activated and fully used by LG. Your storage area, this is where you can find out how much space you're using and on what, delete things if you need to, and how much space you have free. Your battery is going to give you your battery information, how much charge you have, and also allow you to drop into power saving mode. Power saving mode is quite useful because on any device there are times when you simply don't need all of the features. You don't need Wi-Fi, you don't want the 3G running for instance, and you don't need the CPU running at full tilt all the time. So by dropping into power save on most Android devices, you can go in there and you can drop some of these elements. What's interesting is LG have actually extended this. Normally most devices like a Samsung or a HTC only have 4 options there. What we can also see is they've given the option for the touch light as well, the home button LED. So additional power saving options there over and above what we would get from a lot of other Android devices, which is really nice. The apps area shows us our apps, allows us to see what we've downloaded, what we have running, and everything within the system currently. Accounts and sync is fairly standard stuff. This is where you will find your Google account, as well as any additional accounts like Facebook and Twitter from the apps you may have added. All useful stuff. Location access is one of the most useful areas, and probably one of the first areas you want to go in and tweak with this device, purely to save your battery. I would recommend keeping your GPS turned off, but if you're needing location access for applications and so on, do keep your Wi-Fi and mobile network location turned on. But if you're looking to save some power, you can turn those off. Just quickly on the toggle there and take that one off. Within security, this is where we can set up things like our PIN code lock, and also unknown sources as to whether you're going to allow side loading. Backup and reset allows you to back up all of your data into the cloud if an app supports it, or just your basic Google contact information and so on, and also you've got your factory reset in there as well. You also have things like the quick button, date time, accessibility, your PC connection, and the good old developer tools there. I won't go into those in any detail. They're fairly standard if you've come across any Android device before. But in essence, we found this whole device to just be glorious. It really is a well-engineered piece of hardware. It looks fantastic. We have a 5 megapixel shooter on the back with an LED flash. The speaker grill is there, and as always on the bottom we have the micro USB. On our side here, this is where we're going to be putting the power and the volume rocker. And for my mind, the weight of the device is really, really good. This is not heavy. It's made of plastic and it's like polycarbonate of some sort. We've got the headphone jack on the top as well. But the whole time I was using the device, I kind of was thinking, well, who is this device aimed at? And realistically, it's aimed at those people who are looking for a better iPhone, is my opinion. It's not aimed at people at the top end of the market who have, Android devices already, the very latest HTCs, or Samsung devices. It's really aimed at those people who want a smaller phone but are looking to move on from their iPhone, in my opinion, or maybe have an older Android device and they're just looking for a cost-effective upgrade. The whole time we were using the device, I kept thinking to myself, it's a great little phone. It's a great little smart device. It's a great little media player. Everything about it is small, but it kind of is perfectly formed, and LG have done a really good job at getting a tight software and hardware integration. There's some of the other manufacturers could really learn from what LG have done here. They might not be considered a top tier partner by many, but honestly, if you were a cutting edge Android kind of person, but you were looking for a device to recommend to your mum or your dad or a grandparent or, just somebody you don't hate, this is going to be worth recommending. It's certainly worth taking them into a shop, popping it in their hand and saying, how does this feel for you? Use the interface, use the device a little bit. Does this feel like something you could use comfortably every day? Especially if that's somebody who doesn't really go in for the latest devices, which have started to get a bit of weight on them. They're starting to become more heavy. This is a very light device, and so it doesn't hurt your hand after a long period of time, and the in-the-hand feel is really snug. They've got a really nice tapered edge. Perhaps it's a little bit thicker than I would have liked, especially as we're starting to come into devices that are much, much thinner. But, as we get thinner devices, we have to use different materials to build them, and so they become heavier a lot of the time. This one is fantastic. So certainly I would say with the LG Optimus L52, it's worth checking out. If you're looking for that mid-range device, if you're going to be recommending a device to a relative and you're not wanting to recommend one of the biggest and best devices out there, have a look at this mid-range. It's a great little runner, and certainly it's the sort of device I'd be more than happy to recommend to friends and family and not have any particular worries that they're going to come back to me and throw it at me. Brilliant.